He called this the mental equivalent. It is a hidden mathematical ratio. You can never attract 100% of a result if you only have 10% of the mental structure to hold it. Most people spend their lives trying to increase the water, the money, the love, the success, without ever enlarging the cup. This is why they fail. They are not working with a spiritual problem, they are working with an engineering problem. The blueprint they are holding is too small for the mansion they are demanding. The pain is the frustration of almost making it. It is the feeling of hitting an invisible glass ceiling that no one else can see, but you can feel with every fiber of your being. You work hard, you pray, you visualize, and yet your income or your happiness snaps back to the same set point, like a rubber band stretched too far and then released. You think the problem is the economy, or your lack of opportunity, or the unfairness of the world. Holmes says the problem is your internal volume. You simply do not have the cubic footage in your mind to hold the wealth you want. You're a small vessel trying to contain a large sea, and the sea keeps spilling out because the walls are not strong enough, not wide enough, not deep enough to accommodate it. This is not a metaphor. This is law. The universe operates on the principle of correspondence. What is inside must match what is outside. If your mental architecture can only support $50,000, then $50,000 is the maximum the universe can deliver to you without collapsing your structure. If you try to force more into that space, it will leak out through self-sabotage, through sudden expenses, through mysterious losses that you cannot explain. The universe is not punishing you. It is simply obeying the law. It is filling the mold you have provided and no more. The promise is this: if you build the larger structure inside, the physical reality must rush in to fill the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you create a mental container capable of holding $1 million, the universe has no choice but to pour $1 million into it. This is not wishful thinking. This is the mathematics of manifestation. Holmes understood that the spiritual life is not about begging God for favors. It is about constructing the internal equivalent of what you desire, and then watching the law automatically deliver the physical match. In this video, we will stop begging and start building. You will learn how to construct the mental prototype that forces the universe to upgrade your reality. This is not about affirmations that you repeat while secretly doubting. This is about engineering a new baseline, a new normal, a new set point that your subconscious mind accepts as true. When your subconscious accepts the larger container as real, the law has no choice but to fill it. This is the secret that Holmes spent his life teaching, and it is the secret that separates those who demonstrate prosperity from those who merely hope for it. But be warned, there is a specific mental habit that cracks your container and lets all the power leak out. It is a subtle form of spiritual humility that is actually a trap. It masquerades as virtue, but it is the death of demonstration. Most people fall into this trap without realizing it, and they spend decades wondering why their prayers are not answered. I will expose this trap in part 4, and I will show you how to avoid it. If you are serious about expanding your capacity, you must understand this hidden sabotage. I ask you now to make a declaration. In the comments, write the words, "I am the vessel." This is not a casual statement. It is a command to your subconscious mind. It is a signal that you are ready to expand, that you are willing to become the larger container, that you are prepared to hold more life than you have ever held before. Subscribe to this channel if you are ready to stop living at the mercy of circumstance and start living as the architect of your own destiny. The teachings of Ernest Holmes are not for the faint of heart. They are for those who are willing to take full responsibility for the size of their reality. The central concept is what Holmes called the law of correspondence. It is the most fundamental principle in the science of mind, and it is the key that unlocks every door. The law states simply, we can only demonstrate what we can conceive. This is not a limitation placed on you by a stingy God. This is a limitation placed on the universe by the size of your mental blueprint. The universe is not withholding anything from you. You are withholding everything from yourself by refusing to expand the dimensions of your inner world. Let us be precise about what this means. When Holmes says you can only demonstrate what you can conceive, he is not talking about a fleeting wish or a momentary visualization. He is talking about embodiment. He is talking about a mental state so complete, so total, so saturated with the reality of your desire that it becomes your new identity. If you want to be a millionaire, but your mental equivalent is that of a struggling worker, the millions cannot stick to you. They would crush your current structure. They would overwhelm your nervous system. They would destroy the fragile scaffolding of your self-image. Therefore, the universe, in its infinite wisdom, protects you from what you are not ready to hold. This is why lottery winners go bankrupt. They receive the money before they build the mental equivalent to sustain it. The money arrives, but the internal structure is still that of a poor person. The poor person's structure cannot hold wealth. It leaks. It dissipates. It evaporates like water poured into a cracked jar. The universe did not take the money away. The person's own mental equivalent rejected it because it did not match the internal pattern. Holmes understood this with crystalline clarity. You must become the thing mentally before you see the thing physically. Becoming the thing mentally is not a game of pretend. It is not about lying to yourself or denying your current reality. It is about constructing a new baseline, a new normal, a new frequency at which your consciousness operates. If you want wealth, you must dwell in the mental atmosphere of wealth until it feels ordinary to you. If you want love, you must saturate your mind with the feeling of being deeply loved until it feels natural to you. If you want health, you must embody the vitality of perfect health until your cells respond to the new command. This is the difference between wishing and demonstrating. Wishing is when you stand outside the gate and hope someone will let you in. Demonstrating is when you build the gate inside yourself and the outer gate swings open automatically because the law of correspondence demands it. Holmes taught that the outer world is not the cause of your experience, it is the effect. The cause is always internal. The cause is always the mental equivalent you are holding in this moment. Let us examine the mechanics more deeply. Your mental equivalent is not just a thought. It is a complex structure composed of beliefs, assumptions, expectations, and self-definitions. It is the sum total of what you believe is possible for you, what you believe is normal for you, what you believe you deserve, and what you believe the universe will allow you to have. This structure operates like a filter. It determines what you notice, what you ignore, what you pursue, and what you abandon. It shapes your decisions at a subconscious level, guiding you toward experiences that confirm the structure and away from experiences that would shatter it. If your mental equivalent says, "I am the kind of person who always struggles," then you will unconsciously make decisions that produce struggle. You will take the lower-paying job. You will stay in the toxic relationship. You will sabotage the opportunity that could change everything. Not because you are weak or foolish, but because your mental equivalent is doing its job. It is maintaining consistency. It is protecting you from the cognitive dissonance of living outside your self-concept. Holmes recognized that this is not a moral failing. It is a mechanical process. It is law in action. Therefore, if you want to change your results, you must change the structure. You cannot change the structure by fighting with the outer world. You cannot change the structure by working harder at the same level of consciousness. You must go to the root. You must dismantle the old mental equivalent and construct a new one. This is the great work. This is the labor that most people refuse to do because it requires them to let go of the familiar, to release the identity they have clung to for decades, to admit that the person they thought they were is not the person they are becoming. Holmes was relentless on this point. He said that you cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. The old wineskins will burst. You must create a new container. You must expand the walls of your consciousness until they can accommodate the larger life you are calling forth. This expansion is not comfortable. It is not easy. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of holding a vision that your current circumstances contradict. It requires you to maintain the larger mental equivalent, even when the bank account is empty, even when the diagnosis is grim, even when the world is telling you that you are delusional. But here is the promise. If you hold the larger mental equivalent with unwavering faith, the law will respond. It must respond. It has no choice. The law of correspondence is not a suggestion. It is not a guideline. It is an immutable principle. as reliable as gravity, as predictable as mathematics. If you build the internal structure, the external manifestation will follow. It cannot do otherwise. This is the certainty that Holmes offered to those who were willing to do the work. The work is not in the outer world. The work is in the inner world. The work is in the daily discipline of holding your mind at the frequency of your desire until that frequency becomes your new baseline. The work is in refusing to collapse back into the old mental equivalent when challenges arise. The work is in treating your consciousness as the most valuable real estate you own, and guarding it with the vigilance of a master architect who knows that one crack in the foundation will bring down the entire structure. Holmes taught that the universe is not testing you. It is not making you prove your worth. It is simply waiting for you to provide the mental equivalent that matches what you are asking for. Once you provide it, the demonstration is inevitable. This is the hidden ratio that locks your destiny. This is the secret that the masters have always known. You are not a beggar at the gates of heaven. You are a builder, and the blueprint you hold in your mind is the only permission slip the universe needs. The law of correspondence is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the mechanism by which thought becomes thing. It is the reason why two people can be exposed to the same opportunity, and one will seize it, while the other will let it pass. The one who seizes it has the mental equivalent to recognize it and the internal capacity to hold it. The one who lets it pass does not yet have the structure. The opportunity does not match their self-concept, so their mind dismisses it as irrelevant or impossible. This is why Holmes insisted that spiritual growth is not about acquiring new things. It is about becoming a new person. When you become the person who can hold the thing appears. When you become the person who can sustain wealth, wealth flows. When you become the person who can receive love, love arrives. The universe is not stingy, you are simply too small. And the moment you expand, the universe expands with you. This is the law. This is the foundation. This is the truth that sets you free. Now we must examine the unshakable logic that underpins this entire teaching. Holmes used a powerful analogy to make this principle unmistakably clear: the pipe and the reservoir. The reservoir is God, the universe, the infinite supply. It is full. It is always full. It is eternally full. It contains every possibility, every resource, every answer, every solution. There is no lack in the reservoir. There is no shortage. There is no limitation. The reservoir is the source, and the source is inexhaustible. But between you and the reservoir is a pipe. That pipe is your mental equivalent. It is the conduit through which the infinite flows into your life. And here is the critical point. The reservoir will fill any pipe, no matter how small, no matter how large. The reservoir does not judge. It does not discriminate. It does not say, this person deserves a large pipe, and this person deserves a small pipe. The reservoir simply flows. It fills whatever container is presented to it, to the exact capacity of that container, and no more. If your pipe is rusty and narrow, you will only get a trickle. You will receive just enough to survive, just enough to get by, just enough to keep you hoping that someday things will get better. But they will not get better until you replace the pipe. The problem is not the reservoir. The reservoir is full. The problem is the pipe. The pipe is clogged with doubt, corroded with fear, narrowed by limiting beliefs and twisted by old wounds. The pipe is the bottleneck. The pipe is the limitation. And the pipe is entirely within your control. Holmes was emphatic about this. He said, "Do not blame the reservoir for the trickle. Do not accuse God of withholding. Do not say that the universe is unfair or that the law does not work. The law is impersonal. It fills a thimble as easily as it fills a canyon, but it will never overflow the thimble. If you present a thimble, you will receive a thimble's worth. If you present a canyon, you will receive a canyon's worth. The choice is yours. The responsibility is yours. The power is yours. This is the logic that cannot be refuted. It is the logic that strips away every excuse, every justification, every rationalization for remaining small. You cannot say, I am unlucky because luck has nothing to do with it. You cannot say, God is punishing me because God does not punish. You cannot say, "The world is against me," because the world is neutral. The world is a mirror. It reflects back to you the exact size and shape of your mental equivalent. If you do not like what you see, you must change the pipe. Let us go deeper into the mechanics of the pipe. The pipe is not a fixed structure. It is not something you were born with and cannot change. The pipe is constructed by your habitual thoughts, your dominant beliefs, your repeated mental patterns. Every time you think a thought of limitation, you add another layer of rust to the pipe. Every time you indulge in fear, you narrow the pipe. Every time you accept less than you desire, you signal to the universe that this is the size of the pipe you are comfortable with, and the universe honors your signal. Conversely, every time you think a thought of expansion, you begin to clean the pipe. Every time you affirm abundance, you widen the pipe. Every time you refuse to accept limitation, you send a command to the universe that you are ready for a larger flow, and the universe begins to adjust. This is not magic, this is mechanics, this is the law of correspondence in action. The pipe responds to your mental commands because the pipe is made of your mental commands. Holmes understood that most people spend their entire lives complaining about the trickle without ever examining the pipe. They pray for more money, but they do not expand their capacity to receive it. They beg for better relationships, but they do not upgrade their self-worth. They demand better health, but they do not change the mental patterns that created the illness. They are asking the reservoir to do something it is already doing. The reservoir is pouring. The problem is that the pipe cannot handle the volume. This is why Holmes taught that the spiritual life is not about petition. It is about preparation. You do not need to convince God to give you more. God is already giving you everything. You need to prepare yourself to receive it. You need to expand the pipe. You need to build the mental equivalent that can handle the abundance that is already flowing toward you. The moment you do this, the trickle becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river. The river becomes a flood. And the flood becomes your new normal. The logic is unshakable because it places the power entirely in your hands. You are not at the mercy of external forces. You are not dependent on the economy, the government, your employer, or your circumstances. You are dependent only on the size of your pipe, and the size of your pipe is determined by the size of your thinking. If you think small, the pipe remains small. If you think large, the pipe expands. It is a direct, immediate, and infallible correlation. Holmes also warned against the trap of incremental thinking. Most people want to expand their pipe slowly, cautiously, 1 millimeter at a time. They are afraid of expanding too quickly because they fear they will not be able to handle it. But this fear is the very thing that keeps the pipe small. The universe does not reward caution. It rewards boldness. It rewards the person who says, "I am ready for the full flow. I am ready to receive everything the reservoir has to offer. I am not going to tiptoe toward my destiny. I am going to claim it now." This does not mean recklessness. It means faith. It means trusting that the law will support you as you expand. It means understanding that the universe will never give you more than your mental equivalent can hold, so there is no risk in asking for more. The worst that can happen is that you will expand your consciousness and discover that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. The best that can happen is that you will become a vessel so large that the entire reservoir can flow through you, blessing not only your life but the lives of everyone you touch. The pipe and the reservoir. This is the image you must hold in your mind. The reservoir is full. The reservoir is always full. The only question is, how large is your pipe? How much are you willing to receive? How much are you willing to hold? How much are you willing to become? Holmes taught that the answer to these questions determines the entire trajectory of your life. Expand the pipe and you expand your destiny. Shrink the pipe and you shrink your possibilities. The law is waiting. The reservoir is pouring. The only thing standing between you and the life you desire is the size of the conduit you have constructed. Build it larger. Build it now. Build it with the certainty that the universe will honor every inch of expansion you create. Mental preparation is the foundation upon which all demonstration rests. Before you can expand your mental equivalent, you must first enter the required state, and that state is expansion itself. You cannot build a larger container while you are thinking small thoughts. You cannot construct a palace while you are dwelling in the mental atmosphere of a shack. Holmes understood that the mind must be stretched past its comfort zone, past its familiar boundaries, past the narrow confines of personal experience, and into the vastness of universal mind. The preparation begins with contemplation of the infinite. Holmes suggests that you spend time each day contemplating the vastness of the cosmos, the endless expanse of space, the billions of galaxies, the incomprehensible scale of creation. This is not an exercise in astronomy. This is an exercise in breaking the smallness of human thinking. When you contemplate the infinite, you begin to realize how absurdly small your problems are, how ridiculously limited your current mental equivalent is, how unnecessarily constricted your self-concept has become. Most people live their entire lives inside a mental box. The walls of this box are made of inherited beliefs, cultural conditioning, past failures, and the opinions of others. They have never questioned the walls. They have never tested the boundaries. They have simply accepted that this is the size of their world, and they have adjusted their desires to fit within the box. Holmes says this is insanity. You are an expression of the infinite, and yet you have convinced yourself that you are finite. You are a channel for unlimited power, and yet you have decided that you are weak. The contemplation of vastness is designed to shatter the box. When you meditate on the infinite nature of the universe, something begins to shift inside you. You begin to feel the absurdity of your self-imposed limitations. You begin to see that the only thing keeping you small is your refusal to think larger thoughts. You begin to understand that the universe is not limited. Your circumstances are not limited. Even your body is not as limited as you have been taught. The only limitation is in your mind, and the moment you expand your mind, the limitations dissolve. Holmes taught that this expansion is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. You must return to the contemplation of vastness again and again until your nervous system adjusts to the larger reality. Your subconscious mind is like a muscle. It has been trained to operate at a certain level, to expect a certain range of outcomes, to feel comfortable with a certain degree of success. If you want to train it to operate at a higher level, you must expose it repeatedly to the larger vision until the larger vision becomes the new normal. This is why Holmes insisted on the practice of sitting in silence and mentally dwelling in the infinite, not as a beggar hoping for scraps, but as an heir claiming your inheritance. You are not asking the universe to give you something it does not want to give. You are recognizing that the universe has already given you everything, and you are simply expanding your capacity to receive it. The preparation is not about convincing God. It is about convincing yourself. It is about reprogramming your subconscious mind to accept a larger reality as true. As you sit in this contemplation, you must also release the grip of personal history. Your past does not determine your future, unless you allow it to. Holmes taught that the past is simply a collection of old mental equivalents that produced old results. If you want new results, you must build a new mental equivalent, and that means letting go of the identity you constructed based on your past. You are not the person who failed. You are not the person who was rejected. You are not the person who struggled. Those were simply roles you played when you had a smaller mental equivalent. Now you are expanding, and the old roles no longer fit. This expansion requires courage. It requires you to sit with the discomfort of holding a vision that your current reality contradicts. It requires you to maintain the larger mental equivalent even when your bank account says you are broke, even when your body says you are sick, even when your relationships say you are unlovable. This is the test. This is where most people fail. They expand for a moment, and then they collapse back into the old structure because the discomfort is too great. Holmes says you must hold the expansion until it becomes comfortable, until it becomes natural, until it becomes your new baseline. The state of expansion is not a feeling of strain. It is a feeling of spaciousness. It is the feeling of breathing deeply after years of shallow breathing. It is the feeling of standing up straight after years of hunching over. It is the feeling of finally allowing yourself to want what you truly want, without apology, without guilt, without the need to justify it to anyone. Holmes taught that this is your natural state. You were designed to expand. You were designed to grow. You were designed to express more life, not less. The only reason you have been living small is because you were taught to live small. And now you are unlearning that lie. As you enter this state, you will notice that opportunities begin to appear. Not because the universe suddenly decided to bless you, but because your expanded consciousness can now perceive opportunities that were always there. Your mental equivalent was too small to see them before. It filtered them out as irrelevant or impossible. But now, with the larger structure in place, you see possibilities everywhere. You see resources you did not notice. You see connections you overlooked. You see pathways that were invisible to your smaller self. This is the power of mental preparation. It is not about forcing the universe to give you something. It is about expanding your awareness so that you can receive what the universe is already offering. Holmes understood that the universe is not holding back. You are holding back. And the moment you stop holding back, the moment you allow yourself to expand into the fullness of your potential, the floodgates open. The preparation is the key that unlocks the gate. Without it, you will remain outside, knocking and wondering why no one is answering. With it, you will realize that the gate was never locked. You simply needed to become large enough to see the handle. The required state is expansion, not wishful thinking, not positive affirmations repeated without conviction, but a genuine, visceral, embodied sense of spaciousness, of possibility, of readiness to receive more life than you have ever received before. Holmes taught that you must stretch your mind until it hurts, until it resists, until it screams that this is too much, too big, too impossible. And